My question to you as an economist is, what would be your suggestion in terms of looking at these institutions, the informal ones, the tribal ones, or other important sectors, even the NGOs, the private sector, etc. How would you look at that or incorporate that in perhaps advising the U.S. government to work with Yemen?
Yeah, that's a very tricky one. Of course, you want to have effective and legitimate institutions, institutions that people feel serve them, that truly serve them. And of course, building on indigenous traditions or existing institutions, existing popular institutions. Of course, this is very good. The state can supplement these. The state can make them more effective. The state can, do. But the one thing in terms of advice to the U.S. government, maybe this is more from the CT angle. I'm very wary of the idea that there's kind of a sub-society, that Yemen, you hear this, Yemen is tribal. Yemen society is tribal. And if you really want to deal with Yemen, you've got to deal with the sheikhs. Well, what that does is it delegitimizes the state's institutions and bypasses them and legitimizes the sheikhs. Okay? And I don't think that's something that the United States should be involved in. I think that the United States, there are Yemeni institutions that the Yemen and popular. If you think of like a local governance, if you're in a tribal area, the institutions of local governance, which are state institutions, they're dominated by the tribal sheikhs. Okay, so but deal with the institutions. Don't let Yemenis build Yemeni institutions. Don't undermine Yemeni institutions by supporting tribal sheikhs or something like this. And I think that's kind of an Orientalist thing. It's kind of like, well, somehow Yemeni society is different. There's these tribes. We don't know. We have no idea what tribes are, right? So we should deal with the tribes. That's the real Yemen, And it's not true. Yemenis are just like us, and they have state institutions just like us, and that we should deal with those institutions, and we should reinforce those. And that's what Yemenis want. If you, the most popular demand in Yemen today is they call it a dawla muassasi. It's an institutional state. They want institutions. This is what they want. Even the tribal sheikhs are out there saying, we want institutions, okay? So let's all deal with institutions. Yeah.
Morning, thanks. Art Hughes, MEI. It seemed to me that one of the things that really propped up the old patronage system was Ali Abdullah Saleh's ability to call the governor of the central bank and say, I'm running low on cash, send me a bag of money. I think that literally happened many, many times.
Yeah.
But in any event, are there any better controls over government revenues? And has this ability of the leadership system in Yemen to make such phone calls dissipating or under better control, which to my way of thinking would help a fundamental change?
Absolutely. Yeah, the Southerners used to criticize, they call that governance by phone call, and instead of by a committee meeting. And I think that's important. I was encouraged by the vice president's not giving cars to the ministers and not giving them guards. So you had to drive. It was like Hamdi days. You had to drive your own VW around instead of getting guards. And I thought was symbolically a very nice thing to do. Official figures in Yemen are tough. You don't see the $2 billion that the Saudis dump into the treasury. That doesn't show up on the official stuff. The foreign reserves of the central bank have they done pretty good? I mean, at the high point they were about $8 billion. They're down to 4.5 or something like that, which is not bad given the turbulations, the problems that the Yemeni economy has seen, particularly over the last year. They spent a lot of it defending the Yemeni rial, and the Yemeni rial has strengthened recently. I think those are good signs. In other words, they didn't pillage the central bank in the midst of the political crisis in the last year, which I think is a good thing. Whether they'll be able to have effective fiscal controls, that's part of having a legitimate government. Again, these revolutions by the bureaucracy, by the bureaucrats, by the people in the institutions, throwing out the corrupt leaders that are at the top. If they're throwing out the corrupt leaders, they're going to have to. They can't become corrupt themselves in the sense that I think they know what they want. And part of that would be, transparent fiscal controls. It depends on a legitimate government, but there has to be popular support for it, and I think there is, and I'm hopeful that there will be in the future. I think that it's a possibility, a definite possibility. Yeah.
Robin Madrid. I was country director in Yemen from 2001 to 2006. Could you, excuse me, could you speak a little bit to the current cabinet? Are there members in the cabinet now who you have more confidence in, that you're hopeful, such as the Minister for Oil or some of these others that you have some positive feelings about? Because I also was very disturbed initially by the GCC in the process.
Yeah. No, I can't say on the people that were put in there. Again, it was symbolic. You had half ruling party, you had half opposition, and it's just a transition government. I mean, you've got this period we can do it. I don't. How do I say it? It's not so much them that I think are going to be determinative of what's happened. I think it's the next level down in the bureaucracy. I think it's what's going to happen on a more broader level within those government institutions or institutions in general in society. Somebody mentioned civil society. I think sort of releasing civil society is a very important thing. It's everything. I mean, it used to be. This is why the argument about patronage. That patronage transformed Yemen. The oil revenues developed this patronage networks that corrupted Yemeni society. Well, it was corrupt already. I mean, I know people that university professors where the job would be withheld until you reported on your fellow colleagues to the state. That kind of trying to tie everybody's loyalties to the central government, to the person of the president, in fact. Was very corrosive in it. And if we're released from that, and we seem to be, and there seems to be popular support for undoing that, that's where the change comes. Not so much the people who are sitting on the top, I don't think.
Maybe a final question about the cotton production, what to replace it with. You mentioned that it reminds me of my time in Lebanon when USAID tried to help Lebanon wean itself off of hashish production, and provided Lebanese farmers in the Bekaa with American cows that all proceeded to die. Yeah. Couldn't take, I guess, the Lebanese bacteria, not to mention the fact that they, of course, didn't yield much profit. What's the talk in Yemen about what could possibly replace this very, important crop?
Well, I mean, what do you mean by replace it? I hesitate because I think foreigners use God as sort of a moral club to say these Yemenis are bad Yemenis. They're wasting all the resources on God. Look what we do with alcohol. Look at the deaths that go to alcohol problems in this country. And there's no uproar about it. I like God. God's good stuff. So I think that the issue is water and the economy. And there, I think the getting production into more water-rich areas like Ethiopia is a good idea. There's got to be a mechanism for compensating. But I don't think we're not in the role of sort of, morally evaluating whether Yemenis could chew God or not. I think Yemenis will do that. They got, more, if they got more time to work, they got more incentive to work, they're going to work even harder.
What is the crop that could easily be?
Well, coffee is one. Coffee is one. Yeah, I mean, coffee and got the same climate and the same conditions, and they have replaced it. And there are areas of Yemen that are actually coffee is expanding. Actually, and what's interesting I found looking at the agriculture is that the per acre revenues from fruits and vegetables is as high as GOT. But that's a limited market. It's a fresh fruit and vegetables. It's around urban areas and whatnot. But the per acre profitability is the same. So you could expand that. You could develop some export markets, fresh fruit and vegetables for Saudi Arabia, something like this. That's a possibility.
Interesting. Well, Charles, I want to thank you for your time and your presentation. We've all learned a lot today, and hope to see you back.
Thank you.